The knock came just after 3 p.m. Heather Saul opened the door to a man she'd never met before. Stocky, broad-shouldered, but quiet. Inside her small apartment in Charleston, West Virginia, Heather was alone. Her dog Fancy had slipped out earlier. Her friends, who usually stayed nearby for safety, were gone. She was completely on her own. What followed was a frantic battle that would only have one survivor. The man was strong, too strong. One deafening blast rang out, and one person's time on this earth came to an end. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, then join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. What's something that's super small that irrationally annoys you every single time it happens? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon and here on YouTube via channel memberships are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, thank you. And just a heads up, I've got really bad allergies today. I'm trying to hide it, but if you can hear it, I'm sorry. But now, on with the video. Heather Saul didn't want to pick up the phone that day. She'd been working as an escort off and on to support herself and her mom, but lately it had worn thin. She was tired and broke, and trying to figure out what else she could do. I was miserable, she said. If all else failed, I would answer the phone. And that July afternoon in 2015, the number that rang her was unfamiliar. It belonged to a track phone, cheap and disposable. The man on the other end asked if she was available to meet up. He wanted to come over. He asked if she lived alone, and she did. Heather hesitated, but ultimately agreed, and that choice would change everything. Heather had lived in Charleston her whole life. She had worked as a waitress, a head cook. She'd even helped her dad gut houses for HUD repairs. But when she moved into her current apartment, a fast, cheap option in a rougher part of town, things only got harder. The money that she made from escorting helped her to get by, and usually she had someone nearby for safety. And that day, her friends Harley and Lisa were around. But minutes before the man arrived, Lisa ran to the store, and Fancy, Heather's little dog, slipped her leash, so Harley ran after her. So just like that, Heather was alone. When the gold Subaru Forester pulled up, Heather noticed that it wasn't left idling. The driver had cut the engine completely. He knocked, she opened the door, he stepped in and shut it behind him. And then he pressed the cold muzzle of a firearm into her side. He then uttered the words, "Live or die." Heather barely had time to register what was happening before he pounced. He tackled her backwards into the kitchen, hands instantly closing around her throat. "I've fought men my whole life," she later said, "but I knew I wasn't getting out of this unless I fought like hell." The man said nothing else. He just grunted and dragged her across the floor. Heather begged for air. "Please, just let me breathe." He growled in return, "You're going to be quiet." His grip was terrifying. Heather would say, "He was clamped down so hard on my throat. I've been through a lot of physical pain, but that was horrible. You could tell by the way he moved, he'd done it before." He threw her around the room like a rag doll. Heather tried to claw at his eyes. He didn't have any teeth, she just remembered seeing gums. He had her pinned down with his chest. Then he barked, "Get up. Don't say nothing else." He was confident and calm, like this was all part of a routine. Heather had one thing to her advantage. She knew her home better than he did. She had one chance to turn this around, a chance that she was about to take. As he dragged her towards the kitchen, Heather's hand brushed something that she'd left by the door. It was a small metal rake that she normally used to clean up after Fancy in the yard. In a desperate moment, she grabbed it. He reacted instantly. He let go of her neck to wrestle it from her grip, and that was his mistake. Just feet away on the kitchen counter sat the firearm that he had laid down just moments before. Heather lunged for it. She grabbed it. She spun around, and without even looking, She pulled the trigger behind her. The shot tore through the mayhem. Heather didn't think the gun was loaded. I just shot it behind me, she said. It hit him. And just like that, it was over. The man staggered backwards and then dropped to the floor. Heather could hear the fluids pumping from his veins. Now she could breathe again. She bolted out the door, running barefoot down the street. A neighbor saw her and called 911. When police arrived, they found Heather sobbing outside, bruised, battered, and shaking.
911, where's your emergency? Did he actually
I'm not sure.
Was she able to injure him in any way?
Yes, she shot him. She says he's on the kitchen floor, in her kitchen floor.
Oh.
Inside her apartment, laying face down against the door, was a man with one single wound to the head. His time on this earth was called at 3:59 p.m. The man's name was Neal Falls, and what nobody knew in that moment was that Heather had just unknowingly ended a suspected serial predator. Just a few days before that fateful encounter, Neal Falls had walked into a small shop in Bridgeport, West Virginia. This is almost 2 hours from Charleston. He was looking for directions to Pleasant Creek shooting range, the shopkeeper recalled. He was very strange, and I thought it was odd that he had Oregon tags. At the time, the interaction didn't mean much. But after news broke about the shooting in Charleston, the same shopkeeper posted publicly, "This man was in the Bridgeport, West Virginia area last week. He stopped in our shop looking for directions. He was very strange. I called Charleston PD as soon as I saw the local news alert." The man with Oregon plates had only been in town for a week, but already he had unnerved locals, especially escorts. "They deal with a lot of weird people," said Lieutenant Steve Cooper, and they said that this guy really stood out to them. They were frightened off by his behavior. Those who worked on the street avoided him, so he changed tactics. He bought a track phone and he started searching Backpage at the local library. He copied down the names and numbers of 6 women, 5 in West Virginia, 1 in San Diego, and Heather was the only one who picked up. And now with her attack foiled, detectives wanted to know who was Neal Falls. When police searched his gold Subaru, what they found stopped them cold. Inside the vehicle was what one officer described as a serial killer kit. It wasn't just weapons, it showed terrifying preparation. Detectives retrieved 4 sets of handcuffs from his pockets, a machete, hatchets and multiple sharp implements, a shovel and sledgehammer, bleach, trash bags and cleaning supplies, a bulletproof vest, 5 identical sets of black clothing, a duffel bag and packing tape, and a large Rubbermaid container big enough to hold a human body. Lieutenant Cooper said bluntly, he clearly had plans to store something or carry something away from the apartment. On the back of a computer pass that he had taken from a Kanawha County Public Library, he wrote the first names, ages, and phone numbers of 6 women. According to Assistant Prosecutor Mary Claire Akers, he wasn't there to meet someone, he was there to make someone disappear. In his belongings, there was no cash or credit cards taken from anyone else. There was just tools for abduction, for control, and for disposal. It appears that in this case, Heather stopped that plan from being seen through to the end, and very possibly, she ended a much bigger spree. In the days that followed, Heather didn't sleep. She stayed in the same apartment where all of this had happened, simply because she had nowhere else to go. This was her home. The kitchen was left stained with red. It smelled like a funeral home in here, she said. I had to scrub it myself. They didn't even clean it up. People kept on knocking on her door. The media, strangers, even the police claiming that they wanted to help. However, Heather was left not being able to trust anyone. I don't want to hermit myself in here, but I'm scared. Some days I can't even go out in public. I start panicking real bad. I just stop breathing and my chest hurts. She was trying to move forward, but everywhere that she turned, other people wanted to control her story. What no one seemed to understand at the time was this. Heather didn't want to be famous. She simply just survived. When detectives later asked Heather what Neal Falls had said to her on that day, her answer was instant. He said, "I'm going to prison for a long time, and it's your choice whether it's for rape or murder." This didn't sound like a threat, it sounded like a guarantee, and it was then that he lunged. Heather said, "He was squeezing so tight, I didn't think I was going to live through it." She begged him, pleaded, "Please, please just let me get a breath." But he didn't. He dragged her across the floor, told her to get up and be quiet. Heather said later, he was calm, like he knew exactly what he was doing. He had done this before. And it was simply due to one mistake, setting the weapon down. This was the only reason that Heather lived. "I don't want to kill no one," Heather told investigators. "I didn't mean to kill him, but I just knew he was going to kill me." But one thing we don't really know yet is, who was Neal Falls? Neal Martin Falls was born on September 24th, 1969 in Eugene, Oregon. He was one of 10 siblings in a violent and impoverished household. A family friend would later recall, his father used to beat his mother in front of the kids. It was bad. As a teenager, Falls developed an obsession with firearms, with survival gear, and with general military paraphernalia. He never drank nor did he use illicit substances. He kept his nose clean on paper. In his 20s, he bounced between states, Greensburg, Kansas, where he lived with his father until his passing, and then back to Oregon, where he became a private security guard. By 2000, he was in Nevada, working security at the Hoover Dam. And it seems his co-workers there were uneasy about him. He delighted in torturing desert rats, one said. He gave people the creeps. Another said, "We actually joked. He was out dumping bodies."
He had told a coworker that he had trained a deer to come closer and closer to him, and to the point where the deer would actually come and eat from his hand. And at one point, he accomplished his final mission with this deer, and that was to stab the deer in the throat while it ate out of his hand.
In 2008, a harassment complaint got him fired. From there, he spiraled. He began moving constantly, Oregon, Indiana, Kentucky, Texas, often alone and often jobless. When his mother passed in early 2015, and he found out a woman he'd been seeing was actually married, it seems that he snapped. He kind of disappeared, said his sister Joanna. He stopped talking to the family. But what no one knew at the time was that Neal Falls wasn't just wandering aimlessly, he was planning, and wherever he went, women went missing.
Well, Neal Falls, he lived a double life. He worked to protect people as a security guard in Oregon, but police think he was also a serial killer with potential victims across the country. Tonight we hear how the woman he was about to make his next victim turned the tables on him.
I opened the door, he put the gun in my chest, and he said, "Live or die." That's the first thing he said.
For the first time, we can show you this police interrogation video as Heather Saul describes how she killed Neal Falls.
Sorry that I killed him. I didn't mean to kill him. I didn't want to kill no one. And I seen the gun, I grabbed it out and went like this and popped.
Heather had never met Falls before when she met him online and agreed to meet at her apartment in Charleston, West Virginia in mid-July.
He said, "I'm going to prison for a long time, and it's your choice whether it's for rape or murder."
Falls tried choking Heather. She grabbed a rake, and that's when Falls made his fatal mistake. He put the gun down and grabbed the rake, and then
I just went like that and just shot.
Much of Neal Falls' 45 years of life is a mystery. I found his high school yearbook photo when he spent his freshman year in Klamath Falls, where he struggled in school. His former landlord in Eugene showed his renter's application, where Falls wrote he worked for a security company assigned to the Hilton Hotel. Public records show he lived in Coos Bay, Albany, and Lebanon.
State of Oregon on a Subaru.
This is body camera video from a policeman in Texas who pulled Falls over just 11 days before he died. You can only see his face briefly.
You still at the same address here in Oregon?
Nope. I'm actually don't know where I'm headed or where I'm going right now.
Where at now?
I don't know where my next stop is.
Okay, you just living out of your vehicle?
Until I get to West Virginia.
We've also obtained police photos of the crime scene in West Virginia and the victim. Some are too graphic to show. But we can show you items thrown all around and the shell of the bullet that would ultimately kill Neal Falls. Outside in Falls' car with Oregon license plates, police found it filled with things you'd only see in a horror movie. We've obtained video of what police call a serial killer kit.
Mr. Falls had firearm, handcuffs. He had the ability to kill, maim, and disable and keep prisoner, if necessary, any victim that he had ran across. So with the machete, the cutting instruments, large cache of trash bags and bleach, and plus he had a tub that you would fit in. There was a large tub in his vehicle with a lid on it that most women could fit into.
Investigators say they believe Heather wasn't the only one Falls tried to kill on his trip from Oregon to West Virginia. He's a suspect in Nevada where several escorts were dismembered. Falls is possibly linked to other murders, including 2 in Texas. Investigators believe Falls' work may go back years and be connected to dozens of other women's murders in as many as 9 states.
I just did so sad. I'm sorry, I didn't. He would kill me.
After Heather ended Falls, the FBI stepped in. They wanted to know where he'd been and who might have vanished along the way. And what they found was horrifying. Between 2003 and 2007, whilst he lived in Henderson, Nevada, multiple escorts vanished. 3 were later found dismembered in Nevada, California, and Illinois. The women were Misty Saines, 25, who disappeared from Las Vegas. Her torso was found wrapped in plastic near Red Rock Canyon. Jody Brewer, 19, also found dismembered near I-15 in California. Witnesses say that she got into a white car with out-of-state plates. And Lindsay Harris, 21, who vanished from Henderson. 3 weeks later, her legs were found in a field outside Springfield, Illinois. And then came Ohio. In 2013 and 2014, at least 6 women went missing in and around Chillicothe. Among them, Megan Lancaster, Holly Renee Logan, Jamie Bowen, Charlotte Trago, Tamika Lynch, and Tiffany Sayer. Most of these were known to be escorts. Some of them were found in rivers or wrapped in sheets, and all of them vanished before Neal Falls arrived in West Virginia. And after Heather ended his time on this earth, these disappearances within close proximity to Neal Falls just stopped. Lieutenant Steve Cooper later said, "We believe there's a lot of guys doing the same kind of thing out there, but Neal Falls, he got this far before anyone ever saw it. Because Heather fought back, his reign of terror stopped. And because she lived, others may live too. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon."